Hi, welcome to Lesson 3 in our four-part series on smart branding. Since you're here today, you're a subscriber, and we really appreciate that.
Yep.
I'm Kurt.
Maggie.
Good to see you again, and we're glad to continue this series. In the first two lessons, in lesson number 1, we talked a great deal about traditional branding and the flaws that we find in that method. Lesson 2 was about smart branding and the distinctions between what we practice and the traditional method. Today, we'd like to do a deeper dive into the process of smart branding and how it unfolds and serves our clients.
Yeah, you might be wondering why we call it smart branding. It's actually an acronym. Um,
The S
yep.
stands for strategic. We make sure that everything we recommend to our clients is based in sound strategy, whether that's a quick fix or a long term solution. It's always strategic in its impact.
And the M in SMART is for measurable, which is also a critical aspect of our approach.
Yes,
Our background, as we've mentioned, is direct mail and direct response, and everything that's in our core and that we do is all about making sure that there are mutually agreed upon goals, metrics to make sure that we're achieving those goals, and measuring our progress toward those goals.
well said. The A stands for authentic. We've talked a lot about authentic brands and authentic branding, and those are very important to us and central to the smart branding process. But authentic uh, also reflects the way we will interact with you and your people. We want you to come away from a meeting with us thinking, I get those people. They're telling me the truth, and I'm glad I'm working with them.
Absolutely, Kurt. And the R stands for renewed. Because we talk with everyone in your organization and the conversation is about your brand, there's a renewed sense of engagement and excitement internally with your brand, which helps everyone deliver 100% on your brand promise.
Right. And the T stands for truthful. It's important to us that at the end of the day, you, the people who work for you, and your customers and your future customers will realize that what we are saying about branding and what you're showing the world is absolutely truthful.
Absolutely. And so, with that in mind, wanted to talk deeper about the process itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, step 1.1 is because we'll come back to step one in just a minute. Step 1.1 is making sure that we talk with everyone in your organization, which is a critical piece of most traditional branding. We'll talk with a couple of people in different departments, but that means that certain voices are amplified and others are not heard at all. And what we find is that when we are able to talk with everyone in an organization, we learn a lot more about what's really critical
Right.
in the strengths in a company as well as the gaps where company isn't delivering 100% on their brand promise.
Exactly. Don't underestimate the value of identifying gaps and strengths that your employees already know about and finding strategic ways to respond to them.
Right. And, just to be clear, when we say we talk with everyone in the organization, everyone has the opportunity to share their insights around brand. We don't actually have one-on-one conversations with
Right.
everyone. We have as many as we can possibly have, but we have other methods of making sure that everyone feels heard and is allowed to share their opinion, which sometimes can scare people because there's often in a company one or two people who are constantly stirring up dirt, stirring up dust, and making a big deal that can bring the rest of the company down. And some CEOs are afraid
Mm-hmm.
if we give those people the opportunity to share their opinions, it's going to create more chaos in their organization, when in fact we found two wonderful benefits to our process of making sure that those people feel heard. And one of those is that because they feel heard, because they've had an opportunity, and we often encourage CEOs to say, those people that are the big, loud, noisy, angry ones, let us make sure and talk to them one-on-one, because we can take the brunt of what they have to share.
Well said.
We can take a look at whether or not it's an issue across the organization, or whether it's just one or two people who've got access to grind. And we can come back to the CEO and say, no, they're just noisy little chatterbugs, or in fact, this is an issue that is bigger than maybe you thought it was, but we know that because we've talked across to everyone in the company.
Exactly. A big part of MBM Smart Branding is working toward viable solutions. Both Maggie and I have worked in large organizations earlier in our career, and we both know firsthand that lunch table chatter and discussions over a cocktail after work often result in the same kind of complaints about the company and what it's not doing to be a better company.
Right. And so to be real, I mean, any of us who've had an entry-level job or even a mid-level management job at some point in our career know that we'll go and have a drink after work, or have a coffee before work, and talk with our peers and cohorts about what's going wrong in the company, and how we can see an easy fix for that issue. And that's not to say that the people in these different levels know more. They just know different from a CEO, because they live and breathe in that little piece of the organization every day. So they see all the good and the bad, and often the viable solutions to fix them.
Right. So you heard CEO a number of times in what Maggie just said. If you're a CEO, you may be thinking, goodness, this sounds like a lot of steps and it's just going to eat me alive. That is absolutely not the case.
No, in fact, step one in our process is talking with the CEO and the C-suite, and thinking about and understanding where we want to go, what we want to accomplish, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But after that initial large meeting, and then a one-on-one with the CEO for about an hour, that's the primary interaction. That's the primary time that a CEO needs to spend on our process.
Right.
We absolutely, whenever we find something that's a critical issue, come back to the CEO right away. And we provide a monthly update.
Right.
Or however regular a CEO wants to hear from us.
Right.
So Kurt was talking a minute ago, and I got us off track about viable solutions, and how often the people in the organization know not just what the challenges are, but where there's some easy fixes and some long-term fixes as well. And in our process, in having those conversations with everyone in the organization, we're able to hear not just what those issues are, but some suggested solutions.
Exactly.
So, for example, a short-term fix that was it was a real aha moment for us was a couple years ago with a client that had two significant departments within their company that were critical to the success of the organization.
Right.
And they both, to a person, said, we have the utmost respect and admiration and affection for the other department, but when things get tough in the organization, we turn on each other. We hate it that that happens, but that's just how we operate because of the dynamics in the company. And we said, okay, so that's an issue. How would you fix that? And again, it was kind of a consensus of, well, you know what? When I think about it, part of the reason why there's some distrust is because the CEO has monthly meetings with each of our departments separately. And we don't know if the CEO is telling this department the same thing that they're telling us. And vice versa. These people said, we don't know if the CEO is telling this department the same things they're telling us. So, super easy solution. We go to the CEO and say, hey, instead of having 2 meetings, have one. Everybody's in the same room at the same time. And even though you know you're telling everyone the same thing, this way they'll know it. And it was an immediate, the CEO said, of course, I can do that. And quick turnaround.
Yeah. That same organization had a longer term strategic challenge that we addressed, a very interesting one, with a couple of exceptions, individual exceptions. Almost everyone in the organization, every level, every department, believed in the brand that the company currently had. They thought it did a wonderful job of explaining who they were to the outside world. When we saw that, we thought, well, then what you really need is not a new brand, but embrace the one that you've got that's already doing a good job, but do it more purposefully, more intentionally, do it consistently, and spend a lot more time and focus against it. And that, now some 2 or 3 years later, they're still engaged in doing and still getting results from.
Yeah, and that's a great example of not just a long-term strategic fix, but also understanding what it was that we wanted to accomplish in the first place. And that client actually brought us in saying, we're not sure if our brand is still viable. And so from the very beginning of any interaction with a client, the first conversation is, what do we want to accomplish? What do we want to track? What do we want to measure?
Yeah.
How are we going to know that we're moving the needle in the direction that we all want to move it? And needle is really about bottom line return on investment. We've said 100 times that that's a critical aspect to what we do. Branding can often be like a smoke and mirrors. What is a brand? La, la, la. And to us, it's critical that there's a return on investment measurable metric.
Yeah, we absolutely believe that business decisions in organizations can take all different kinds of shapes and forms. Building new buildings, hiring new people, acquiring new equipment, all of those kinds of strategic decisions are looked at from a return on investment standpoint. We believe that branding should be treated exactly the same way. If you're acquiring more customers and achieving more sales, we're doing the job we should be doing.
Right. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about, we're going to talk a lot about that more in the next video, the 4th video in the series, where we're going to talk about new ways and new profits.
Indeed. Our smart branding method leads to just that. And I think you'll find a lot of important and interesting information in Lesson 4. Again, thanks for being a subscriber. Thanks for watching us today. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Stay safe.
Thanks.